They say the best thing about having a passion is finding someone to share it with. In this aspect, I'm the luckiest guy in the world because I just had a cute little baby boy. Between thinking how to provide or how to best facilitate physical and mental development and even starting to raise college funds, I'm still thinking about his future childhood and what things I can pass on to him while growing up in order to educate, entertain, stimulate, while still having a little fun of my own. One of the biggest passions throughout my life was gaming. Personally, it served as an escape environment but also proved to be one of the best teachers when it comes to both ethics and logic. It taught me resilience, critical thinking, morality, and in some aspects helped me develop my sense of humor. So in this video, I would like to organize a curated selection of titles that can serve as a foundation for the cognitive, ethical, and emotional development of a child from birth to maturity, while also giving him the best childhood I could ever imagine. Gaming is not just a sequence of pixels, but a set of digital microenvironments that, when approached correctly, can prevent burnout, stimulate curiosity, and offer lessons that traditional educational systems frequently omit. This video will organize the games in chronological order, starting from the earliest sprouts of growth throughout adulthood, and will reveal the developmental objectives of each chosen game. Because I haven't played all the games in the world, this list is purely based on my experience. The first video game I would like for him to play is Super Mario Bros. At this age, I would consider the game an absolute standard in introducing the interacting video game logic. This would teach the little bugger that every problem has a precise mechanical solution. Another reason is that the core gameplay and the controls are relatively simple. You just have to go right, jump, and maybe throw some fireballs. I know that the skill ceiling, especially for the pros and the speedrunners, is amazingly high, but the mechanics of the game are so simple that even a small toddler could pick up the controller and jump right into the game. Beyond the basics, Mario is a masterclass in physical awareness. It's where he will learn to coordinate his motor functions, perfecting that precise timing and momentum needed to leap over bottomless pits or land on a Goomba's head. Then there's the magic of discovery and exploration. Although limited relative to other games, Super Mario still has its share of small little secrets that you could discover. I can't wait to see his face during the first encounter with a hidden secret, like going down those green pipes or hitting a brick only to find a climbing vine or a hidden one-up. It's a beautiful moment that teaches the child that the world is deeper than it looks and that the curiosity and exploration are often rewarded in ways you don't expect. And the last thing that the kid will learn is a little bit of resilience and patience. I mean, just how many times can you hear that your princess is in another castle? I won't stay long on this one because it's basically the first game on steroids. However, the extra additions like the open world, branching paths, and the new cloak bring new avenues of learning and motor development. The addition of the open world would create a easy to visualize playground. In this playground, the sense of progression is easy to visualize as you move from level to level and from region to region. This open environment also allows for the creation of branching pathways that would come to explain that for each hurdle there might be an additional route for progressing, and finding this route would need a little bit of puzzle solving. I remember playing, and every time I spotted a door or a key, I would realize that the counterpart must be close, and I would have to do a little bit of digging and find out how to unlock the other way. Last thing is the addition of the cloak that would enhance the movement skill, especially when it comes to flying or gliding. Next game on the list is Donkey Kong Country. This game represents the next logical step, but comes with a serious challenge. If the Mario games were the introduction, then this is the first true test of resilience. I mean, I beaten the game only when I grew a little bit older, but I remember as a kid banging my head against the wall over and over again until overcoming each level. I think I might have sucked, but my son will suck too, this being his third game and him having my genes. Failing and retrying is a good skill to learn, giving the games that will show up on this list. Also, the game introduces the swap mechanic that brings a little bit of variance to the puzzles. He will have to understand each of the character's strengths and weaknesses and how to use it for his advantage. In a sense, teaching him that not all people can do all things and that everybody has its value. And lastly, for this masterpiece of a game, we have the barrel and the on-rail portions. If this doesn't hardwire perfect synchronization in your brain, I really don't know what does. The next game on the list is Ubisoft's Rayman Legends. This game is from the era when Ubisoft actually made good and enjoyable games. This is the first game that will introduce the concept of teamwork. Co-op will teach him that he doesn't have to carry every burden alone, and having a partner, in this case his dad, makes all the hurdles easier and much fun to overcome. Another aspect are the musical levels that are pure genius. I mean, I could say that this is for rhythm development, but who am I kidding? I just mentioned them because I love them so much and they are so much fun. I mean, it could teach him that these sort of things are cool, which is a great lesson to learn. To close this first stage or perhaps act as a perfect bridge into his preteens, we have to talk about Pokemon. As a long-beloved series of video games, without a doubt, Pokemon is the first RPG experience that anyone could have, adult or kid, it doesn't matter. But this in itself also makes talking about it so hard. Not because I don't have anything meaningful or nostalgic to say, but because the modern experience might be too different compared to what it was back in the day. While introducing a sense of wonder and adventure coupled with strategic decision-making is great for a kid, the technological advancement in the intercommunication might have stripped away what truly made Pokemon a uniquely special game: social interaction. The portability and the desire for unobtainable Pokemon in your version of the game pushed you towards discovering and forming bonds of friendship that might have outlasted the love for Pokemon itself. And while modern Pokemon games still offer an enjoyable experience for millions of players across the globe, the original intangible one has been taken away from modern versions unless you go actively out to seek it. Contrary to the tagline, in the end it was never about catching them all. At this point in his life, I would guess that he still loves me and is not embarrassed by me, like in the pure teen years that would follow. I would take advantage of this and try to create a kid's moral compass and enhance his problem-solving skills, while adding a new spice of freedom and imagination development. This is the time to broaden his horizon and introduce him to all these fantastic worlds and environments that gaming has to offer. At this stage, he needs to become a dreamer, and he will by first-hand experiences of all these never-before-seen worlds. Like in the previous stage, I will arrange every game chronologically. What way to introduce him better to the world of CRPGs than through this masterclass of a series? When thinking about it, I cannot form cohesive reasons to line one after the other because there are so many, but I'll give it a go. First is that the universe is so whimsical and magical, forgetting about the great British humor that he might not get yet. We are talking about a phenomenal built world in which he can lose himself and have tons of diverse activities. Next reason is that the game is fully voice acted. I know this is a little bit redundant, but at this age he might not be able to read that well, and a fully voice acted game would come to bring a better level of immersion. And now for the nitty-gritty of the subject, the growing up experience and the moral choices you can take in your life. Fable is the best game that, while still having childlike qualities, offers the possibility to choose your character and follow him throughout his whole life. Basically, he will start the game with a protagonist with the same age as him. I want my kid to think about what he might become later in life and for him to understand that things would continue to be great provided all the good choices were made at the right time. Going back to gameplay, he will be put in the shoes of a kid exactly like him and given a choice on how he would approach problem solving. Would he be naughty or would he be kind and helping of others? I know that by this age he should know the basics about good or bad, but I love that by playing Fable he would be actually reinforced after doing a bad or a good thing, starting with how people behave towards you or how you look based on your alignment. It is a crude way to treat the world as plainly good or evil, but at this point this is a perfect representation of the concept without going into much depth. And the last thing to learn from this video game are the basics of RPG mechanics, of leveling up and getting stronger. Being that the Elder Scrolls 6 will come out only when he's about 20 years of age, I think the best way to start would be with its older brothers, Oblivion and Skyrim. These games were harder to pinpoint to his life journey, but after further deliberation, I think this would be the time to experience them. Keep in mind that by this point he would be 8 or 9 and already in school. Oblivion and Skyrim, especially Oblivion, could become a way to experience control escapism as to reduce academic or day-to-day stress. The games would serve as a symbol of absolute freedom. The moment you leave the sewers in Oblivion, you are hit with the absolute plethora of things to do, triggering the curiosity nerve that, if hit correctly, could capture his imagination for tons of hours. Another aspect of these games is that they teach you that sometimes the destination is less important than the journey. How many of you guys, just like me, lost themselves in this open world forgetting about the main questline of the game? I mean, the world needs to be saved at some point, but look, there's a huge mountain that needs to be climbed or another dungeon to explore. And to tell you the truth, the main story of these games were never their strong suit. But this is no review of the games, so let's get back on the subject. And now for something really controversial. The level of writing. Without making any jokes, I truly believe that the level of writing of the games, for let's say 80% of the cases, is truly a preteen level, which would be perfect for his age. Before shouting at me about the depth of the Elder Scrolls universe, believe me, I know. The universe and lore has layers upon layers upon layers, but they are not presented in the game for casual experience. Everything is there for those who search, but casual players scarcely engage in the stuff. I mean, he can repeat playing the game at a further stage in his life and get into all that stuff, but at this point, I cannot see him playing Elder Scrolls series without nothing but casual eyes. And imagine his amazement when growing a little bit older and finding out the depth of the series. This would be a gift that keeps on giving. Continuing the journey into his early teens, Halo will be where the concept of teamwork from Rayman evolves into something more tactical and high stakes. This is the definitive couch co-op experience that I want to share with him. There is no greater feeling of partnership than one of us driving the Warthog while the other mans the turret. It will reinforce the idea that we are a unit. I have his back and he has mine. Especially when we're stuck on a ridge with no ammo and 3 brutes are closing in. Playing Halo on Heroic or Legendary will be our first trial by fire, teaching him that communication and shared strategy are the only ways to survive a superior force. Plus everything I just mentioned, this will be fun as hell and even better experiencing everything with him. I mean, back in the day I experienced this with some of my best friends. I want my kid to feel the same exhilarating action with me. Another important aspect with this game is that I would like for him to develop a healthy dose of competitivity, starting from counting frags while playing in co-op to versus matches after he learns all the mechanics. I'd like to think I'll beat him, but knowing kids these days, he'll wipe the floor with me in no time at all. The grind is real. As a fun fact, Diablo 1 was the first video game I ever finished at the age of 5. I would not recommend this though. I remember when killing Diablo I was just running around and chugging health potions infinitely. I really can't remember if I had good equipment, I really think I did not. I think I just put the coolest item on me with the highest number and just hoped for the best. Even if that was my first experience with Diablo, I still remember my love for Diablo 2. I was a little bit older and I understood many more things. I understood the stats, the equipment, the spells and the synergies. I remember beating the game over and over for the next kick of finding better gear or gems. This is a good lesson to pass on. I know grinding is not fun, but sometimes it is necessary. Often in life you need to keep on grinding harder and harder every time with the hope you'll get better loot at the end of the action. Very subtle way to prepare him for adulthood. Another lesson is through the progression system. What to spec, what advantages you get and what works with what. Plus the universe is a dark fantasy one that would prepare him for things to come. Even if he's gonna wipe the floor with me in Halo or other fighting games, it will have to take some time before he can challenge me at these games. These games will be the introduction to strategically thinking, further reinforcing competitive spirit. In a world of instant gratification, strategy games are more of a slow burn. They will teach patience, careful planning and thinking before striking. Another aspect to teach his teen mind would be resource management. Whether it's balancing gold or wood in Heroes or managing villagers and food in Age of Empires, he will learn that you cannot have everything at once. You must prioritize based on current goals. Every move in these games requires an assessment of risk versus reward. This reinforces a competitive spirit that isn't about fast reflexes, but about outsmarting an opponent through superior logic and preparation. By the time he masters this, he'll have a foundation in strategic foresight that traditional schooling rarely touches upon, preparing him for the complex decision-making he'll face in the real world. I know I said that instant gratification is not good at all, but what the hell, sometimes you just need to have some fun and turn off your brain. This is a perfect environment for practicing control rebellion and would be a good starting point for the next phase in his life. Son, just kill some baddies and assassinate some Templars. This is the conflictual period in his life. At this stage we'll hear the facts that I don't understand him or that life is not fair, going through the existential angst of teenage years. This stage isn't about teaching him how to jump through hoops or manage gold. It's about refining his soul. It is time to pull him back to the earth and teach him some lessons in maturity. It is the time to show him that while life is indeed hard, character is forged through how we respond to that hardship. If Super Mario taught him that every problem has a precise mechanical solution, Gothic will teach him that the world doesn't care about him, at least not at first. He will learn that respect is won by taking hardship into your own hands and pushing it through until you manage to break the wall. Compared to the Soul series that we will discuss further down the line, the progression in Gothic is based more on gear rather than skill. This will teach him when and where to choose a conflict. People in Korinis or in the Valley of Mines absolutely don't care anything about you, not even that they don't really like you at the beginning, or forthright take advantage of you at this stage in the game. You start the game as an absolute nobody in an uncaring world that will chew you up and spit you out every occasion they have. But this is just the starting phase. If you push on through, raise your stats and ally yourself with people that could help you, you will get from a literal nobody to a practically unbeatable character that could level cities. The feeling of gratification from building his character is something I cannot wait to see. Another thing for him to learn is that all things can be done in multiple ways. You just need to stop a minute and think about what way you want to approach the problem or which faction would be the most beneficial one to join. All in all, this series would be the best way for starting building character in a world that really doesn't care about you. We joked about the Dark Souls death montage earlier, but now it's time for the real thing. Soul series is the final exam in resilience. It's a lesson in spiritual grind. These games teach you how to be humble. If you're arrogant, you die. If you don't observe your surroundings, you die. I want him to feel that incredible rush of adrenaline when a boss finally falls. Not because he got lucky, but because he refused to give up. It's the perfect metaphor for any hurdle he'll face in his 20s. By the time he's 16 or 17, he's ready for the moral grey areas that Fable was too crude to address. In The Witcher 3, there is rarely a perfect ending. Sometimes you choose the lesser evil, and it still keeps you up at night. This game will challenge his moral compass. It teaches that actions have long-term ripples, often affecting people you never intended to hurt. This is the high-level writing I want him to experience once he moves past the casual preteen storytelling of Skyrim. I'm adding this because beneath the wacky minigames or over-the-top combat, Yakuza is a masterclass in modern masculinity and honor. It teaches you that you can be tough and cool while still being deeply kind, loyal, and even a little bit silly. It reinforces the idea that family isn't just blood, it's the people you choose to protect. Seeing Ichiban or Kiryu deal with heartbreak and betrayal will help him navigate his own emotional development as he becomes a man. Finally, we return to the ultimate grind and realism. Unlike the absolute freedom of Oblivion, KCD forces you to exist within the rigid, often brutal, structures of history. You aren't the chosen one. If Henry doesn't learn how to read, he can't read. If he doesn't practice with a sword, he's useless. It's a final reminder before I release him into the real world that you are responsible for your own growth, and your survival depends on your preparation and your worth. As he enters the peak of his teenage years, Persona 5 will serve as his manifesto for social awareness and personal agency. This game is a vibrant lesson in the necessity of rebellion against systemic evil. It teaches that when the world is governed by corrupt adults with rotten hearts, you have the power and the moral obligation to stand up and demand justice. Beyond the stylish combat, the core of the experience is the confidence system. It will show him that no matter how much of an outcast he might feel, like during those difficult years, he must find friends in his life on whom he can truly rely. It reinforces that our greatest strength doesn't come from our individual abilities, but from the bonds we forge with those who share our values and have our backs when the world tries to pin us down. This curriculum isn't just about playing games, it's about the conversation we'll have after the controller is put down. From the first one up in Mario to the final moral choices of The Witcher, I want to give him a childhood full of wonder, logic, and the strength to face whatever comes next. If you have titles that shaped your own moral autonomy, leave them in the comments. I'm still building this roadmap for my son and I'd love to see what lesson you'd pass on. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have some diapers to change. See you in the next one.